At some point in time, I acquired electronic copy of reports from the Comptroller of Currency that dated back to 1980. At the time I found it, which was more than a month ago, I noticed that the due date, the 40-year anniversary, happened to be the same day that I had received a letter from a staff member of a senator of my home state deploying me to Texas, saying my home state was now Texas, and if I had any further questions or concerns, I should contact my local senators, the senators of my home state. I was not born in Texas, and I had already tried to contact both the Texas senators about important national security related matters, and they ignored me. Not only did they ignore me, but the responses I did receive from people that alleged to be members of their staff only further exposed me to what could only be considered breaches of national security. They offered absolutely no assistance in actually providing me with what I needed to deal with the matters at hand. So when a staff member from what was actually my home state deployed me to Texas, I understood that I had to take whatever means I could to protect myself and have comported myself since then as if I understand that that staff member is co conspiring with staff members of the local senators who are refusing to actually engage legitimate processes in order to provide me with the resources I need in order to prevent national security incidents from escalating to ever greater levels. Is this something that's specific just to members of staff? Or is this something that they are doing in performance of the ministerial duties of the senators of regard who believe that they're able to get away with it because they have the cover of sovereign immunity? That's a good question. The senators themselves refuse to speak on these matters. Uh, the other hand, what I do understand is that when I try to convey very important national security related information, it ends up getting misrepresented and mischaracterized through the actual words and deeds of the senators themselves. So, with that in mind, I am going to provide a reading of written reports I've already composed regarding responses to the Comptroller of Currency audit of the U.S. Department of Energy from July 11th, 1980. There are two parts that are written. There is a second part. This is the first and third parts. The second part was actually me providing a video. Notice that if in fact what this was about was an attempt to get me to provide some sort of transactional moment to pay for somebody else's alleged obligation, including for education, because they had agreed to pursue under the rubric of education policies, paradigms, and or experimental processes that were themselves illegal and subjected people to processes of human test subject experimentation without their informed consent, then I was not going to comply. You do not get to charge me or anybody else to pay for your educational loan if you are committing illegal activities. That also includes any other loan, whether that be anything connected to alleged medical treatment, whether that be anything connected to a fixed asset, or whether that be anything connected to insurance up to and including political risk insurance. You have no constitutional or other right to obligate people to pay for your illegal activities. And you can't even hide it under the guise of it being about national security. Because if there was anything about it having to do with national security, then when somebody who's a citizen of your own country, who's never been arrested, who's never been accused, at least not to her face, of a crime, and has demonstrated time and time again, not only the capacity, but the compunction to contact the appropriate authority when necessary in order to prevent a national security incident from escalating and is refused time and time again, it begs the question of under what auspices or under what authority do so many people in a command authority position willingly and intentionally refuse to do what it takes to prevent a national security incident from escalating. Part 1. This report was to start as a review of an audit by the Office of Comptroller of Currency that was requested by Senator John H. Glenn, Chairman of Subcommittee on Energy, Nuclear Proliferation, and Federal Services of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, for 3 uranium enrichment facilities overseen by the U.S. Department of Energy. Report number EMD 80 was dated for July 11, 1980, and sent to Senator Glenn by Elmer B. Statz, Comptroller General of the United States. Upon first reviewing this report, I noticed several matters that I believed compelled a reconsideration of recent events that I contend were an accrual of refusal of the U.S. Department of Energy to respond appropriately to the Comptroller's report at the time. A. A refusal to address worker safety issues concerning reports of potential health hazards by employees using a verifiable process as discussed by the Office of Comptroller of Currency in the report. B. A refusal to consider coordination with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission at the time concerning certain elements specific to worker safety. C. A refusal to address issues concerning hierarchization and access by health safety personnel that impacted their prioritization when it came to evaluating risk and what should be addressed as priority concerns by the U.S. Department of Energy in regards to its uranium enrichment facilities. As I was reading this report originally, I understood that there were at least two areas in the report that had been embedded with what I call etheric sabotage. In two areas where there were reports on potential health hazards that are coded to sound like they are coming from a low volume and low frequency female voice, there is an oversound of a deeper masculine voice denying that there is a problem, even though there is no rational or reasonable basis for alleging that there is not a problem. There is a notation that at that time I was reviewing documents, primary source documents, in consideration of the report. It was at 10:39 p.m. Central Standard Time. Then I returned to the composition. An attempt to review what are alleged to be the current electronic records reveals a misrepresentation of information as it was originally discovered and analyzed. It has already been reported that the desktop atop which this information has been stored is connected to operating software that does not currently have the official license in the possession of the owner of the computer. Someone else has stolen the license for the operating software. Additionally, despite efforts to report and secure the system through available and legal means, back-end access has proven that unauthorized persons have accessed the computer and altered electronic records frequently during the time frame in which this report was being investigated and compiled. Years of experiencing tracking the long-term implications of this sort of digital sabotage and access to written records has assured me of the confidence of my own capacities, as well as understanding that these matters are connected to quantum considerations with explanations that, while logical, also entail an understanding of nonlinear events impacting the accrual process, which can alter perception if allowed to be subjectively influenced.